Those that follow Vaughan and I will notice that last night we found out that Wayne Brown was going to stand for mayor. And we gave him an invite. Is he man enough to front up and to front with us, guys? Well, guess what, guys? He's right here, right now, right today. And the other thing is, what I found about this guy, he's an infrastructure engineer. He's got credentials. He's got what it needs. Now, we got Auckland City. Just give us a bit of an update, but it's just a mess. Absolute, complete mess. We got the City Rail link delayed, cost blowouts. We've got traffic congestion. We've got the CBD. It's like a war zone, and it just doesn't seem to end. It just keeps going and going and going. We got the port at the most unproductive it's ever been. And this is a council-owned organisation. And we got money wasting going on and on and on. Geez, Wayne Brown, you've got a big task ahead of you. Why would you want to stand for mayor?
Well, it's a golden opportunity, really. If I didn't do it, I'd look back and regret it. There is no well-known failed politician standing, and the people who are standing have never done anything remotely like this. And I have had a lot of people saying, you know, you've fixed a lot of things in Auckland, why don't you have a go? And so I'm going to have a go. I know how.
What have you done, Wayne? I mean, you've got a reputation as Mr. Fix-It. What actually have you achieved in life?
Well, as well as Mr. Fix-Its, or instead? In terms of Mr. Fix-Iting, Auckland City Council will be the 5th organisation with a turnover of over $1 billion or more than 10,000 staff that I've led, and it'll be the 9th of 200 million turnover and 300 staff. So I've been doing this for quite a while. It started, I suppose, with Northern Health, which was at the time that Peter Troughton appointed chairs around the country. He'd sort of been around the country, and everyone gets to Northern last, and they'd had enough of sort of accountants, and so I was picked out of the blue mainly because I was developing a set of cinemas in Wellington where he lived, and they said there was a guy from up north doing that, and he thought that's interesting. And so Northland Health was one of the ones. He had divided the DHBs into seagulls, the ones that could fly, of which there was about 2. Pukekos, the ones that could fly with a bit of encouragement, and dodos, and Northland was a dodo, and it was actually the first one to break even, and we didn't cut any services. We just cut waste. And that led to others. And then when the power went off in Auckland, they were looking around to find somebody who actually, an engineer who understood things, and I was brought in to chair Vector back to power and back to reliability and profitability. With power companies, they're profitable as long as you don't turn the power off. It's pretty dumb, simple business. And then after that, when the Auckland City Hospital bill got off to a terrible start, I was appointed to get that thing up and finished. And it's a $500 million project. And then, oddly enough, it's the only hospital ever built on time and on budget, and it was actually the biggest one. So that was.
Now, Wayne, I've been dying to meet you for a long time because an urban legend follows you. Now, I heard this story, and I don't know if it's true. So you were cleaning up the hospital up north, and I heard it was in the first few weeks you were there. You got all the surgeons and all the big timers and said, get your Porsches, your Ferraris and everything, guys, and park them out the back. The most important people here are not you. It's our patients. They park at the front. Now, is that true, or is that just urban?
No, that is true, but it wasn't in the first month. It was in the first week. And the other thing that, because you can always do something in the very first day if you've thought about it. And that changes the perception of the people around you, and they suddenly realise, man, our leaders arrived. The other thing, I went into that building there, and the Whangarei Hospital, it was it's like an L-shaped thing. And we went into one bit, and they call it phase 1, and we went into another block of the multi-storey building, they call it phase 2. And I thought, why is it phase 1 and phase 2? If I was a patient, I'd be thinking maybe phase 3 is a coffin. And they told me, oh, well, phase 1 is medical and phase 2 is surgical. And I said, well, let's call them the medical wing and the surgical wing. And we did. And you wondered why it hadn't happened before, but that was day 1. And so, yes, start with something. There's always something you can fix at the start.
Now, Wayne, one thing that this terrible job you're going to take on, I don't think you've got a few. I think you're missing a few brains here, because taking on that one of the worst jobs in Auckland, and that's why there's not a good quality of candidates standing up there. I'll just say, but present company accepted. So good on you, Wayne. But look, the other thing is, one thing we've noticed watching our members of parliament and within this organisation, the bureaucrats are pulling the strings. They obviously have got total control over the elected officials. Now, Wayne, why do you think? I mean, I'm talking about Wellington, that it pokes his nose into Auckland's affairs all the time. Now, Wayne, why do you think you can change that?
I don't imagine a lot of the senior managers will be rushing to vote for me, but and they've got plenty of opportunity, people they can run over. They lie in wait for inexperienced people to arrive. And all over the country, the management run the cutter rather than the elected officials guiding them. It's the lack of leadership and clarity on their part too. And I think that what they do is that they overload the managers sector, overload the elected officials with far too much paper, and they make them appear busy right from the start, so that the elected officials think their job is doing what they're doing now. And you have to actually give them a shock right from day one. And so I expect on day one, what I've done in the past, I usually find that they deliver papers which are way too long, incorrect grammatically, numbers aren't quite right. They don't know the numbers themselves in their own papers, and you can usually spot that more straight away. And so I have a habit of rejecting their papers on day one, and so come back with a very clear executive summary on one page, and see if you can get that across. And so they're suddenly forced to actually think about what they're going to say, and you've taken away one of their main weapons. I've heard from one of the directors at AT, the dreaded Auckland Transport, that the board papers are 1,000 papers long, and then you wonder what sort of idiots are on a board and accept that. I mean, I'd have just chucked it straight back to the guy. If you think you're going to give me 1,000 pages to go wrong, and I'll find a lot of things that are wrong in that, then you're in trouble. And so they have to understand from the start that you have been there before. You know more about how to run a big organisation than they do, and it's time to quieten up and listen.
Good on you, Wayne, because that's exactly yesterday when Vaughan and I put our video up, somebody came back with that saying that's your reputation. He doesn't mess with details. He'll push it back and make sure that you get a summary which is clear, crisp and succinct. And look, if you can do that and get rid of the BS, which we're seeing a lot of, and and it seems to be done in a strategic manner to actually try and bluff the elected officials and then get through their justification for employing more people, taking more time, putting more bureaucracy into place. And it really is frustrating for us as the public watching that happen. But
that's cool. Snowballing.
Sorry, Wayne, one thing that's pretty obvious to me, and it's a misconception from the public, if you become mayor, you don't have you're not an autocrat. You don't have total control of the council. You're just one of a few councillors, and you only have one vote. What's going to make it a difference where you can get your way in there?
Well, the short word is answer to that's leadership. But in fact, when they changed the legislation to create the super city of Auckland, they actually altered things to give mayors a bit more grunt than they have had in the past. So you get one vote, but you also get a casting vote, which is very helpful, and you get a budget, which my predecessors have wasted on employing communications people rather than doing some research and perhaps setting aside a bit for each area to encourage some of the councillors to behave a bit better. The other thing is, right from the start, you show that you understand the complex parts of what they do. So we're going to spend a bit of time on the balance sheet, because quite a lot of councillors sat for years and avoided ever being tangled up with it, and have asked questions about the easy stuff. But we're going to go through the balance sheet and ask a few questions, and people are going to understand that I understand that, and they probably didn't. I've had a habit of asking all sorts of questions every time, and quite often you notice that everyone suddenly listens because they really wanted to know the answer, that they're a bit scared to put their hand up and say they didn't really understand. So you ask those things, and then you question them about the things that matter to the public, which are the costs of infrastructure. And we ask around the table those things. And it soon becomes clear to everybody that I know more about that than they do. And there are some subjects about which they would know more to me, and I'm quite happy to let them have a run on it, like the arts and crafts, and entertainment, libraries and things like that, which aren't really a problem at the moment in Auckland. Other people can have their say on that, and I'm not going to dominate that. But the things that really count, I will not dominate, but I'll be the person that they will look to for leadership, because I will understand what the questions are to ask about that. I mean, if you ask most councillors to explain depreciation and link that to capital expenditure, they haven't got a bloody clue. You may as well ask them something in Sanskrit. And so you do provide some leadership early on. The other thing I'd like to do is actually put all of our council meetings live up on the web so people can watch them. And it's amazing how that makes people behave.
Oh, absolutely, because then they're accountable to the public. I agree with that.
Yeah, and it makes the elected officials behave too. Suddenly, when you can put them under pressure, they kind of falter a bit, and they learn that, in fact, this should be a council-led council, not a staff-led council. And the thing is, once the council gets some confidence in that, it should be an Auckland Council leadership providing what it is that we want to build in Auckland, not from the Ministry of Transport in Wellington, who've never built anything, or Waka Kotahi, who've never built anything on time or on budget. They have nothing to offer us other than send back our share of the money. We'll spend it wisely.
And dead right too, because look, one of the biggest examples of failure for our current administration is CBD, the Central Business District, which has completely destroyed a whole lot of small businesses. But more importantly, it's cones. It's all the public know about in the Auckland city is cones. And now I understand that the population or the pedestrian traffic within the city now is at its minimum, and it's not recovering. Have you got confidence this investment of and I'll say it, billions of dollars is actually going to be for any purpose? Do you think people are going to come back to our city?
Well, that's going to take a while, and the question of unfinished projects, it's not just the CBD, they're all over the place. There's half-baked ones in South Auckland and out the west. And Auckland covers all the way from Wellsford to Pukekohe. You've got to remember that as well. So whilst the CBD is really important, it is part of the city. The CBD is sadly in trouble largely because of the way that they've allowed to carry out the CRL, the City Rail Link project, which has basically shut down Albert Street and Victoria Street West and Wellesley Street West, and it needn't to have done that. First of all, the wrong decision was made about cut and covering Albert Street. But having made that, even now, if I was the mayor today, the contractors would be told, reduce your footprint in Albert Street to 1 3-metre strip in the middle so you can get a concrete truck in. They've got the whole street, most of it's workers' lavatories, lunchrooms, offices that can all be shoved straight downstairs tomorrow and open up the street for traffic. And open them. You can have traffic going through the CBD and have construction going on, but the councillors have sat there supinely and just and allowed these things to happen and blamed those things for things not happening. But they can have an impact, and not just there too. The State Highway 1 between Walkerth and Wellsford is in fact an urban linking road, even if it is a state highway. And that's been under construction for 10 years. I don't think I've ever driven through there without having to fight my way past red cones and not necessarily past anyone doing anything. And I've never heard the mayor or the councillors go crook at them and say, get this bloody well finished. And they should.
They should. I should. I'll tell you what shines through just talking to you just now, Wayne, is your infrastructure engineering background. There's no way any of those bureaucrats are going to get away with anything and try and delay things and actually try and compound it with more administration. I'm delighted to hear you with a practical solution with actually writing the CBD. You have a part of the road, but you put the rest back and give it to the public. And, later on they could move that their area. That's fantastic. And it really has got a solution, which I just love it. You're practical and you're going to fix things. I like this, the idea of that.
Well, it's not just there. Right across the city, contractors are being allowed to invade our public places with cones, utes, and safety trucks and all the stuff like that there, and no one ever tells them off. And the reason for that is that they don't have to pay to be there. The moment they have to pay, and it's even guys building buildings. You know, I was riding my cycle up Nelson Street the other day on the cycleway, only to come across a thing saying cycleway is shut. There was nothing happening, just a whole lot of cones and stuff there for someone to build a building there. Now, I mean, the moment that those people have to pay to be on our public street, you just watch how quickly the cones and the utes and all that other stuff disappear.
My goodness, I've got some questions for you. Hey, Wayne, would you come back another day? Because I want to talk about the bridge. That's really important, and the alternative to that, because traffic congestion in Auckland is absolutely at a terrible state. I want to talk to you about that. You know, the council organisation, Watercare, which has been we just looked at the huge salaries, millions and millions of dollars, you know, those guys take home just for being the CEO of some part of the Auckland city. Wayne, I'd be delighted if you come back. Would you come back for some more of this?
Oh, I enjoy it. Please ask me. You know, I mean, and bit by bit, people will digest the breadth of skills that I've got and the breadth of problems that we're facing. And I focus on problems and come up with solutions. That's kind of what I do.
Tell you what, Wayne Brown, I think you've got a bit of a fan here, but look, folks, I'm going to ask him some hard questions when he comes back. So keep watching this space. And there's no doubt Wayne Brown's going to come right back on the screen very, very soon. Thank you very much, Wayne. I really appreciate you coming on.
Good on you. Thanks for asking me, Max.